in a way, it's like you have to practice the craft though, because I remember when I was making models by hand, like you would practice cutting things and measuring things accurate to within a quarter of a millimeter, which is bonkers. Like you like cutting things by hand, and like when you want your corners to join perfectly, and you're making a little house, you're making a house this big. Like you need to cut the thing accurate to at least half a millimeter, right? If you're half a millimeter off, it's not going to be right. And so I guess that kind of like craft, you do have to practice as an architecture student to making that, like to understand the value of that craft. But at the same time, the computer can do it faster. So once you do understand that craft, then just have a computer do it for you. I should go back to architecture school and yell at all the students. Yell at their models being half a millimeter off. Not sure what school rules are about it here though. It's possible that Helena's school requires handmade models. Yeah, it might not be allowed. Because you do learn certain things making things by hand. So I would agree that you should know how to make it by hand before you're allowed to use a robot to do it for you. Just like, you know, you need to know how to draw. It's like a basic skill that you need to learn. Even if you don't end up using it that much, you do like it's important to understand how things work. Like drawing by hand, like understanding how the charcoal interacts with the paper, or how the ink interacts with the paper, like stuff like that is important to know. Even if you end up, like your whole career, you end up just using Photoshop and never making anything by hand ever again. Yeah, sketching classes. Even though most of it is done on Revit, that's right. I mean, even if you end up using computer for most things, it's about understanding how the different materials interact and the kind of effects that you can create when you draw. I mean, yeah, sure. Like I think the better way to explain is the architect will design everything on Revit, but the buildings will still be built physically, I guess is the way to explain it. So you do need to understand the physicality of materials and the processes of making physical objects. Like you do need to understand that part. Because ultimately buildings are real physical things in the real world, right? I have seen Revit designs that are unbuildable. It's actually quite funny. I have seen people use computers to design things that are not buildable. And they don't realize it. It's like they just draw shapes in the computer. It's like, oh, this is a cool shape. Look at this cool shape I made. And it's actually not buildable. So yeah, so you do need to understand how things are built physically. Like, yeah, that's right. It is quite easy to make that sort of mistake if you haven't built things before. That you just don't consider like the sequence of assembly. It's the kind of thing that pisses engineers off so much. Like when you give them a design and they're like, this is not, you can't do this. I don't care how much you pay me, I can't actually do this. Ah, good times. No, I don't want a horse. Get out of here. How have I been? Been recording stuff for YouTube. So basically playing video games. So I was talking about making the Skyrim mod where the guards just find you randomly, right? I figured it out, and I think I'm like halfway through making the first draft of it. I've only spent like 3 hours on it, so it's not that much time. Although the initial prototyping, it's not as interesting as it sounds so far, Wesley. That's the problem. I mean, I want people to try it too, but basically you just walk past and you just randomly get fines. And it's just kind of weird. I don't want to. I can't make it too complicated, so I can't really change the dialogue too much because I'm not going to record dialogue for it. I mean, it's intentionally weird because you randomly get fines. And like that's the emphasis on the injustice of it, is that it's actually random. Like there's a chance that you get a fine, and so there's no real sense of justice. But it also makes it so that you don't really know what's going on. I probably shouldn't do this sort of experiment too much, because it is quite, in a way it is cruel. Humans don't deal well with genuinely random events. Humans tend to want to like find a reason why things happen. And things that are truly random is it bothers people. It's on a video game, so who cares? I might mess people up, Wesley. Like making games that are genuinely unfair. Reddit, yeah, Reddit is an interesting series of social experiments, is how I see it. Randomness. I mean, like one of the first questions that kids ask is why, right? You know, little kids, like, you tell them something and they're like, why? I feel like humans instinctively need to know why. And when something genuinely has no reason, it messes people up. Mostly the aspect of change. Yeah, change also messes people up. Random change really, really messes people up. Like things that randomly change. is hard for people to deal with. But yeah, haven't done that much this week. Oh, I haven't done that much that has produced anything concrete. So you're using foam board for models. I was saying foam board is not that environmentally friendly, right? Unless the stuff you're using is different from mine. Isn't that stuff impossible to recycle? Foam board? I mean, straight cardboard is easy to recycle. Let me just foam board recycling. Is foam board recyclable? Polystyrene. Is more often reused and recycled. Very few community recycling programs accept foam. Yeah, like foam is very hard to recycle, I think. Recycle polystyrene foam. It's possible, but it's uncommon, according to the internet. It's a great material though, right? It's a bit of foam sandwiched between two bits of cardboard. From an engineering perspective, it's a very clever composite material. It is also very expensive, which is kind of weird because it shouldn't be. It should be quite cheap. It's just polystyrene and cardboard. Probably like ripping off the art students, making it so expensive. Or maybe, doesn't Europe have certain laws that require you to price in the recycling cost into the materials? Is that a thing in Europe? I seem to remember, I don't know if it's a thing or if it's a proposal, but the cost of the item has built into it the recycling cost. So then when you're done with it, you just give it to the recycler and you don't have to pay any more afterwards. Is that a thing in Europe? I'm asking really obscure and specific questions about laws. Yes and no, it depends on a lot of stuff. Yeah, okay. Yes, it's super complicated. Complicated environmental policies and Minecraft with Simon. Like, when we bring things to get recycled, some things are free to throw away, others you have to pay for. Yeah, I mean... Well... That also depends on the thing, right? Like, some things are easier to recycle than others. Glass and steel... I think glass is quite easy. So yeah, some things you can just like give straight to the recycler and they will profit from recycling it, and therefore you don't have to pay anything. Other things that cost money to recycle, and so then you have to pay something. Although I feel like the government kind of needs to subsidize recycling, otherwise people won't do it. Electronics, I believe, is recyclable but complicated. And so if you bring a computer in, often you have to pay. Although I think here there are certain companies that do it for free. Printing, the thing I'm most interested in is 3D printing metals, I think. Like make jewelry. Obviously 3D printing metals is difficult. But Shapeways, the company I was talking about, Shapeways can 3D print metals. So you can make bits of jewelry. You can custom design and custom make jewelry, and they'll just print it out for you. In gold and silver even. Wesley says, when we buy consumer electronics, we can bring in the old electronics to get some reduction on the new phone or whatever you buy. Yeah, okay. Yep. A trade-in. What if I like 3D print little famous buildings as jewelry? What if I like make a little Hagia Sophia pendant? Or like a little Guggenheim Museum necklace. Actually, is that probably you probably can't do it with modern buildings because it's copyrighted. But with historic buildings. Sounds like something someone would probably already does, probably. And probably doesn't make any money at all because who would buy this stuff? This tree probably has to go. So jewelry, tourist souvenir, but even tourists don't. Well, maybe it's just me. When I go touristing, I don't buy a lot of souvenirs. Oh, but I do have I have an ongoing bad souvenir challenge. Buying a little Eiffel Tower when you're in Paris, yeah. So I have an ongoing bad souvenir challenge, which is whenever you go somewhere, you find the worst souvenir you can, and you buy that one. So it's I haven't actually bought very much, but like the most like the ones that don't make any sense is the funny ones. So in Rome, or maybe just take photos. Maybe you don't buy, just take photos of it. In Rome, we saw like little plaster colosseums with purple glitter on it. So we went to the Colosseum, and then someone was selling a little plaster Colosseum with purple glitter on it, which is weird.